So I've been a Christian since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So, I'm not quite as young as I look. So I've been around a little while.
You look super young, man. So don't. Yeah, I'm like, where's the shovel? I'm going to start digging a cistern today, man. And it's like, and then God says, I'm the living water.
Yeah.
Right. I'm literally like, I'm the fountain of living water. Just come to the fountain and drink. Right.
Yeah.
But you're getting up trying to dig a cistern every single day. One of the things that I tell younger founders that I think is the most critical thing you can ever do, and it's going to be the most successful in terms of driving your business forward.
Well, hey folks, today we're chatting with my new friend Adam. He's the founder of Zeemee, and he's a guy whose mission is all about building more than just his own platform. He's launched tech companies out of Silicon Valley, spent time in India, and he has lived in this tension between faith and hustle. And today, what we're really wanting to focus on is what it means to live and build a business with a kingdom perspective in a world that's pushing us to compete, to climb, and compare. You and me live in a world of business. We live in a world, maybe less so for you. I don't know how much competition there is as far as what you guys have created with Zeemee, but in
there's
general,
a lot of competition. Yeah, a lot of competition.
Yeah, okay. So then we do live in the same world, right? It's the world tells us every man for himself. Like dog eat dog, go after it no matter what.
Right.
How are you handling that? Like, what do you think about that? When you think about, well, I'm a faith guy, and so I've got this set of morals or these guiding foundational principles that are supposed to direct my life, but yet I'm playing in a sea with a bunch of other people that don't.
Yeah.
Like, just from a baseline, let's start there and figure out what do you even think about when you think about those things?
Yeah. No, great question, Mike. And first and foremost, thank you so much for even inviting me to be on the podcast with you and speak with you, and inspired by your story and everything that you've built and done. And so really a cool honor for me. So thank you for that. Yeah, I think that that's such a good question. It's so hard sometimes. I know in the early days of Zeemee, I don't think we looked at the world of higher education as like, we didn't want anybody to know what we were doing. We didn't want to like reveal anything. We didn't want, to build relationships necessarily with other competitors or people in the space that were selling products. And so I think that was a detriment to us in that we didn't build, great relationships with other companies. They're also trying to do great things. And so we didn't have that collaboration. It wasn't until, our CEO, Vanessa, who came in 2018, kind of changed that mindset to, hey, let's build great relationships in the space. And yeah, we're going to have competitors. There are going to be people that are building products similar to ours, or there's people that compete for share of wallet, right? Because we're selling to a college and a university. There's a lot of other vendors out there. They're selling all sorts of different products to those schools in order to help increase their enrollment. And that's what we do at Zeemee. We help colleges. At the end of the day, helping students make friends ends up increasing enrollment for a college.
Right.
Right. And so being able to do that at the top of the funnel has a huge impact on their applications, on students that commit. But there's a lot of players in the space, and they're doing different things. They're all doing good work to try to help colleges, improve their enrollment. So you compete in many different ways. And I think that in some ways, like, the competition is so good for us. It's so good. Like, there's younger people that come up in this space all the time with new ideas and ideas that are very similar to Zeemee. And it's inspiring in a lot of ways. It's like, wow, this is like sweet. Like, these guys are working hard. They've come up with, better UI, UX than what we have. Like, so it's very motivating because it keeps us like staying on the edge. But at the same time, how do we love them well without kind of, like you said, this worldly mindset of, I'm just going to destroy you and crush you and like annihilate you. Right? These are real humans. And I think when we lose sight of them being real human beings, we start to, become like embrace that worldly mindset of like, I'm out to destroy you and kill you. Again, I think competition is very healthy. I love competition. Like, I love it. But just recognizing that these are real human beings with real feelings. They're also trying to feed their families, right? They're also trying to do good work. And so, yeah, talked a lot on that one, but what about you? What does that look like for you, building co-working space in Houston and a lot of other initiatives you've done?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have found really interesting is we'll get people that will come in and they'll be looking for some space, and they'll say things like, well, but do you have anyone else that does this? I.e. the same thing they do. And I've always found it strange, and and usually my response is the same, and I'll say, well, yeah, we do, but like that's a good thing, right? It's not like customers are walking in off the street to go into an office space and then they're looking for, the digital marketing guy or the realtor guy, whatever else. Like, you know, we've seen people in similar industries make friends
Yeah.
and lift each other up, spitball ideas. Hey, I've
Yeah.
been trying this. This isn't working. Or like, what are you finding
Right.
is working right now, to be able
Yeah.
to close these deals down or whatever. And then we've seen people who do the opposite and they just silo themselves. And it's a really kind of sad form of existence, but I think it's just an immaturity in business. And I think the folks who've been around a little bit longer, have got to the point where they've realized, hey, we do better making friends with people. We don't do so well if we just think that we're smarter than everybody else and better than everybody else. And I think
Yeah.
that's the big idea here, right? Like, what if entrepreneurs stop trying to just think about building an empire for themselves, but actually think about maybe building each other up, whether it's a competitor, whether it's not a competitor, whether it's a community like Kicks, or whether it's just the business that you're in and the people that you serve.
Yep.
And you know,
Yep.
you just said it. If you look and make friends with the other folks who are doing similar things to you, it will help you become better. And
Yep.
and 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 maybe, by extension, help them become better, which really then gets down to the crux of why you're in business, right?
Yep.
Is business
Absolutely.
about
Yeah.
me and me winning at all
Yeah.
costs, or is it about the person I'm serving and them benefiting to the best of their ability? And it's a horrible thing to say, but sometimes people may do better not doing business with me. They may do better doing it, down the road at the other
Absolutely.
guy's thing.
Yep.
Like,
Exactly. Yep. I
I
think
wish
that's
I could keep all the money, but
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's a beautiful perspective, right? And there's schools that, we work with or schools that we want to work with that we realize, hey, like actually this other product might be a better solution for you, right? Just based on where you're at, based on your budget, based on like type of school, the demographic, whatever it may be, like there may be another solution out there that's going to be, a better fit for you at this point. And so I think that you're 100% correct. Like if we look at it through the vantage point of, hey, we're trying to serve the community here,
yeah,
then you can make much better decisions in the end.
yeah,
And for Zeemee, like we started taking off when we embraced that collaboration mindset because it led to new partnerships, which led to a lot more sales and profit. Right. And so I think that that collaboration component is absolutely huge. We could have viewed the world as, oh, well, you guys are selling into higher ed as well. Like you're taking, even though, one of our main partners that wasn't competing with us from a product perspective, but was competing from a budget perspective, if we had just thrown that aside, well, no, we're competing for budget, like then we would have, created a very negative scenario for ourselves
yeah.
right down the line. Whereas when we entered into that collaboration mindset and kind of moved out of the competitive mindset, it was far more advantageous for us as a company and for all of our partner schools, right? Because it ended up serving them much better.
So when you think about your journey with Zeemee and how you've had to grow the business, I think what's interesting is you're a little bit like me where you're building relationships that are very long term. You're building relationship with schools that
Yep.
are going to be there for essentially ever.
Yep.
You're building relationships with the students who are also your customer, but they're also the customer of the school. And
Yep.
then somehow you've got to foster that
Yeah.
relationship. So it's kind
Right.
of like partners, peers, vendors,
Yep.
and all these things. How have you approached, or what things, as somebody's listening to this, right, and they're trying to
Yeah.
navigate this stuff,
Yeah.
what do you think maybe the three best tips are, or the three things you've learned the most about doing that well
Yeah.
versus not doing it so well?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would say that like first and foremost, Adam Cruz actually has this in his email signature. He and I years ago were in Palo Alto and we there was a guy that had come into a coffee shop and we got introduced by a mutual friend and we were talking to him and he was a CEO of a successful company. He had had, many successes in in Silicon Valley and he told us actually he's like yeah, I like busted my butt. I worked so hard and I lost my wife, like
Yeah,
went through a divorce, like, you've heard that common story, like
yeah,
lost sight of things. And he said, that God really got a hold of his heart in terms of, what his focus should be. And he said, the greatest advice I can give you is enjoy each day of the journey.
yeah,
Right. And so Adam Cruz has that in his email signature now. Oop, give him the thumbs up there. But yeah. anyways, I think it's like a beautiful kind of umbrella under which to operate from, which is enjoy every day of the journey. So, what does that look like as it relates to employees? What does that look like as it relates to your peers in the space, to partners, everyone that you're serving? For
Yeah.
me, it's like we're just having so much fun. Like we're having such a good time. Like this is amazing. Like we're helping students find friends. We're working with people in higher education that are absolutely amazing human beings. They're there to help serve the students. And so it's like, why don't we have a good time? Like this is
Yeah.
amazing. Like having a great time. We love these people. We build great relationships with these people. These are people that, they all pass the airport test. Like I want to hang out with you. I want to be around you, right? When we go to conferences, it's like, yes, like we get to hang out with our people, we get to hang out with our partners, we get to hang out with, this community that's full of love and full of care and full of, grace and generosity. And so it's beautiful, right? So just recognizing that, hey, we're operating first from a place of it's a wonderful journey. Enjoy every day of the journey, right? Don't look at it as like this stressful, got to grind 24/7 every single day to find success. So enjoy that journey. And then I just think love naturally flows from that mindset of like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe I even got out of bed this morning, that I have breath in my lungs, that God gave me breath in my lungs, that God gave me these people I get to work with, that God gave me these partners that we get to work with, that God gave us a company that's growing and thriving, and we don't deserve any of it, right? Like it can be taken in a second. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
for me, I don't know if that fully answers your question, but I think like that mindset of just joy, thankfulness, like is just really impacts how you treat people that you work with, how you treat your partners, the students, all of those things.
Okay, but then so let's pause on this for a second and go a little deeper though, um, because it sounds great. I want to do
Yeah.
business with people that I enjoy hanging around with, and people I'm happy to link arms with almost.
Yeah.
But what's the risk versus reward there? Because it doesn't always work out. Some
Yeah.
people have some really, really bad experiences, when
Yeah.
they're trying to do this the right way. So,
Yeah.
like, how have you navigated that? Or have you even seen that? Or you've just not
Yeah.
experienced it?
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because I
Yeah.
think that if you err too much on the side of like, hey, we're all family, it's all love, it's all cuddles and hugs,
Right.
then you sometimes don't hold a high standard for excellence.
Yeah.
And I've seen that on the Zeemee team where I've made the mistake in the past of like, you become so much, ingrained in like, well, I can't even give you candid feedback because you're just like such a dear friend. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so like you end
Yeah.
up not serving your team well because you're letting them get by with things that they otherwise should not be getting by with. And so you have to, and then also I would say with, the partner schools, what I found doing founder sales is that that can backfire on you too, because the person that you're doing business with gets in their mind like, well, I'm friends with the founder. Right. And
Yeah.
so then it's like I get this discount for all time,
Yeah.
and so that actually isn't good for the business as you're trying to grow and you're trying to release new product and do things like that. So I think that though that love, that friendship is always like so core to any foundation of a great company. At the same time, you got to just balance that with like, hey, like we do at the same time expect high
Yeah.
standards, we have high excellence, and we have to pursue that. And I think, Netflix touched on this, right? Where they said it's not really a family, it's like a
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
And you're trying to ensure that you have your A players out there and you're performing at the best you possibly can. And I found it's like a mix of family and team. It's just kind of this weird dynamic, then just like this big beautiful thing that God gives us. But yeah, I don't know how it's worked for you and what it's felt like in your businesses.
No, it's funny you say that. So that Netflix document, if you're listening, you don't know what we're talking about here, go Google Netflix's HR document. It's legendary from years ago. I can't even remember the lady now who wrote it, but it was one of the like senior VPs for HR at the time, I
Right.
think. And she laid out this clear manifesto of this is what it's like to work at Netflix. And they have the beauty, obviously, of being well funded. So they absolutely only hire A players, A plus players, and they make
Right.
no bones about it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and it's very aggressive in places and it's very harsh. And what Adam's referring to here is they use this analogy of, look, we're not a family, we're a team. Every person on the team shows up to play the game.
Yep.
And if you're the catcher and you don't catch, like you're off the team.
Yeah. You're not
We
on the
don't
team.
we don't
Yeah.
tolerate just
Yeah.
because we've got a good relationship with you, like, well, he's just my crazy uncle, right? And he's just always part of the family because he's the
Yeah,
crazy uncle and there's
exactly.
nothing we can do
Yeah,
about it. And so, yeah,
exactly.
so we used it. So when I was working on some of our internal documentation over the years, I absorbed some of those
Yeah.
concepts in. And you're right. It's a balance of we want to be a family from a relational perspective, but we want to be a team from a performance perspective.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to treat you cold as a
Yeah.
human being. I want to care about you. I want to care that life's going well for you. We want to be able to go out and get, drinks after work or dinner sometime or whatever. And that's absolutely fine. But when it comes to
Yeah.
performance, well,
Yeah.
hang on a minute. This is a slightly different relationship. The trade-off is simple. We
Yeah.
give you money, and in exchange, you agree to bring your 100% energy and effort and to deliver
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're supposed to deliver on. And if you don't deliver, like you can be the nicest person in the world, but that's not how business works.
Yeah.
I've got to
Exactly.
deliver too.
Yeah.
Adam's got to
Yeah.
deliver. And
Yeah.
so, what's really interesting, you probably know this, but folks listening might not know. The lady that wrote that document for Netflix, she ended up getting fired
Oh,
based
really?
on
I didn't know.
based on the
Okay.
standards in that
Wow.
document. Yeah, they let her go.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
that's, can you imagine you write the process, you
Yeah.
live through this ultra aggressive,
Yeah.
environment for 10 years or whatever, and then you actually
Yeah.
get eaten yourself. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of irony.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly. Well, it's probably reflective of myself. Like I say things, but do something else. I think we've all been in that boat. But
yeah.
yeah, we don't try to build the Netflix culture.
Yeah.
I think there are some good learnings from it to take away. And I think you brought up a great point too, is like depending on their type of business,
Yeah.
right? You're going to have different cultures. So if you raised capital versus didn't raise capital, if
Yeah.
you're B2B versus a B2C,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of different considerations, I think. If you're a remote company versus an in-person company, there's a lot of different things and factors that play into the type of culture you build. So I think those are important things to take, and take everything I say with a grain of salt, right? Because I'm speaking from my limited experience of being in a SaaS business,
Yeah.
B2B play, fully remote, venture backed, right? So that's kind of my perspective I'm entering into it with.
No, but even there, it's that nuance that I think a lot of what I say this a lot, and I don't mean it derogatively. If you listen to the show, you know what I'm talking about. But you've got immaturity versus maturity, and it's not immaturity as a negative. It's immaturity as just I haven't been around the block enough times yet, and so the younger, more immature founders and entrepreneurs don't necessarily understand what you just said, which is there's 20 different ways to skin a cat here. Like
Absolutely.
you can
Yeah.
build a business doing it all kinds of different ways. There isn't one
Yeah.
size fits all because
Exactly.
there's so many
Yeah.
nuances. And the biggest nuance is you, right? It's the person. Like
Yeah.
your personality, your style of communication, who you are
Yeah.
as a human being and what you believe affects how you lead Zeemee. It's the same for me. It's the same for the person listening on the show. The more
Exactly.
mature, I think, founders and entrepreneurs have got to the place where they've realized, oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, like, this book was a good book. These are some good ideas, but that's just not me. I'm not going to try and go be Gary Vee
Yes. Yeah. I
or
love that, Mike. Yeah.
John
That's,
Maxwell or
yeah.
something else. Like
Yeah.
you got to pull from the buffet line.
Yes.
And I think for a younger founder, my worry is always you're going to spend so much time listening to it, what everybody else has to say. If you don't take time to figure out stuff for yourself and think through things for yourself, you will never
Yeah.
be a leader. You are
Yeah.
actually a follower. You're just following five other leaders,
Yeah.
copying what they're doing, trying to
So
implement
good.
it in your own world, but that won't work.
Yeah.
It won't
Yeah.
succeed.
Yeah, you just nailed it. Yeah, you nailed it. I think in the early days of being a founder too, like you listen to another founder, like that's gospel.
Yep,
Like what they
that's
just
it.
said, oh, I have to do it.
Yeah,
And you lose all the nuance of what's going on in that person's life.
yeah,
Like for you, right? You've run multiple business all at once. Like you've built, you rebuilt that entire burned down mansion while you're running other businesses. People may not know that, right? So they see like your YouTube video and they're like, oh, okay, he's only focused on this, he's doing that. They may not know like your family element, what's going on in your family.
right.
Like I have 3 kids, right? I started having kids at the age of 25. There's a lot of founders today, they're 30 years old, they have no kids.
Yeah,
And so for me to come in and say, well, your day should be structured like this, and this, like
yeah,
that's for me. I had 3 kids at 30, right? So,
uh-huh,
for them, like you're 30 years old, you don't have kids, like you need to figure out what that looks like for you.
yeah,
But one thing I would say is like what you said, I think is true for everyone, is you need to stop and reflect and think about what is the best path for you. And for me, in the early days of Zeemee, I didn't stop and reflect and think enough. I was just pushing so hard And I just bought into this mindset of like, you got to grind 24/7 and you got to, be working 24/7. So I'd get to the office at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? Like I wasn't taking time for fitness. I wasn't taking time to like spend time in God's word, to reflect, to journal. I would do like one of those little devos that was like 5 minutes and like
Yeah.
run out the door and think I was good. Right. And I wasn't, because then my personality and like my attitude would reflect that I hadn't spent time with God. And one of the things that I tell younger founders that I think is the most critical thing you can ever do, and it's going to be the most successful in terms of driving your business forward, is just fully relying on God. Right. So getting up in the morning, at night, whatever it looks like for you, and just spending that time with God and understanding like he's going to do the work, right? Deuteronomy 8 says, he was the one that delivered us from the wilderness, right? He was the one that gave us manna. He was the one that gave us water from the rock. He is the one that brought success, right? Not us. And so I think that in my own drive and initiative, I thought, oh, well, if I just work harder and I push harder, we'll find success. And actually it was very counterintuitive, because we actually found less success. It wasn't until pulling back and just reflecting on who are we, like, who am I, and what is it we're called to do here, and allowing God to move that direction. That's where we started to find a lot more success. And he brought the right people, right? He brought Vanessa in to do it. He brought in amazing people at Zeemee to do it. But it wasn't me. And like
Right.
me pushing harder wasn't getting us anywhere. So
Hey, if you're enjoying the podcast, could you do me a favor? We're trying to make sure that the right people hear this and that we get the message out to people that will really benefit from this conversation around people, profit, and purpose. If you could share it maybe with a friend, or even take a couple minutes and go leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is that you're listening to, that would mean the world to me. It would definitely help us out with the show, and it would help more people find us, and you would be amazing. So thanks so much, and let's dive back in. So, okay, but that's interesting, right? Because I think one of the challenges, so I've been a Christian since I was a kid.
yeah,
So, I'm not quite as young as I look. So I've been around a little while. One of the things that you see,
you look super young, man. So don't.
I still think I'm 25, but apparently
Yeah.
I'm not.
Hey,
And the
hey, it's
lines
the
would.
spirit, it's the energy, Mike.
One of the things that I've seen in Christianity, we'll just call it that, whether it's inside the
Yeah,
church, outside the church, whatever. One of the things we see is you've got folks who, well, I prayed God's going to do all of it, right? Like
yeah,
I don't have to do anything because God's
yeah,
just going to make it happen, and then it doesn't.
yeah,
And then they have a challenge with that, or they have a crisis of faith about that, or things go terribly wrong, and it's like, well, I don't understand, because I mean, I've been praying, God says
yeah,
He's going to show it. Then you got the other extreme, which is, well, I'm going to pray, but I'm going to do everything I can. Yeah, I'm going to work 15-hour days, whatever else.
yeah.
Obviously, somewhere in the middle is the right balance, but I think that middle is incredibly hard to find.
Oh, 100%.
Um,
Yeah.
so how do you think you found it?
Yeah. I'm really
Because I
glad you.
wrestle with this today.
Yeah.
I'm building a burned down mansion, right? So we moved to Tennessee, but then my business in Houston, well, those
Yeah.
numbers stop going up and they
Yeah.
start going down a little bit. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but hang on. I didn't even do that much when I was in Houston. Like, what's going on? But just being here as a founder and a leader does
Yeah.
make a difference.
It makes a big difference.
And
Yeah.
it's like, well, hang on, but I'm doing this for my family. We prayed about this.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in God's will and I was doing the right
Yeah.
thing. Well, what's going on,
Yeah.
God? What
Yeah.
where's my next big client when this one's walking
Right.
out the door?
Yeah.
What do you say to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. It's such a good question. And I think that like you said, in the church world, we find those extremes of like, hey, on one end, I'm praying about it, just going to see what God opens and do that. Two, or on the other end of that spectrum, like you said, like, I'm just going to grind 24/7 and make it happen. So I think that my upbringing, I gravitated towards, I'm going to grind 24/7
Yeah.
and see what happens. Right. Like my parents were divorced, and I saw my dad on the weekends, but he was at office like 6 a.m., worked till 9, 10 p.m. every single night. Right. And he owned his own business.
Right.
My mom was a flight attendant, so she was gone 2 weeks out of the month, every single month. Right. So she was working her butt off to support, two kids.
Yeah.
So I think that I grew up with this, like, you just grind and things come as a result, right? Like God's going to bless those who grind kind of mentality. Right. So for me, I needed to kind of correct more towards, hey, like, it's not my skill set, it's not my ability that drives results. If I have any skills, if I have any ability, it came from God. So I need to recognize the source and just, pour into the source, allow God to make things clear and evident to me versus me just kicking doors down. I was a door kicker. Like I literally get up every morning, like I want to kick some doors today, right? Like, and there's a verse in I believe Jeremiah or Ezekiel, I'm drawing a blank right now. But it essentially says, I hold this against you, right? That you're digging your own cisterns.
Yeah.
You're literally going out there. I'm like, where's the shovel? I'm going to start digging a cistern today, man. And it's like, and then God says, I'm the living water,
Yeah.
right? I'm literally like, I'm the fountain of living water. Just come to the fountain and drink, right?
Yeah.
But you're getting up trying to dig a cistern every single day. So I was way over on this side of the spectrum. I don't understand the people on the other side that's like, hey, like, I'm not going to do anything. We'll just see what happens. Like that to me is just kind of laziness. But like, I had to correct myself. So I think identifying where you're at on that spectrum and then kind of finding out what's the right balance. I think you're right, but it's like a constant struggle. It's like a good tension. We have to always have to like think through, and am I spending enough time with God? Am I spending enough time with my family? Am I spending too much time on work? All those things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
am I spending enough time on work? There's been times where I'm like, maybe I'm not spending enough time. Maybe I'm like getting really comfortable and my life is becoming really easy. Right. And I look back at these people in the past and like busting their butts, like, industrial workers and our grandparents and everybody that came to, great grandparents that came to the United States and they fought in wars. And like, do we have it too easy? So yeah, I find the same tension like constantly. So just trying to figure out, what's the right path.
So something I wanted to talk to you about, and we're about to wrap this thing up here time wise, but I've got an episode that we're going to drop on this. I haven't found the right person yet to talk about this for the entire episode, but as founders, as leaders, one of the things that I think we wrestle with is isolation.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, it's lonely at the top," right?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about relationship, we've talked about dynamics, we've talked about family, team, all these kind of things. But as the founder, and obviously you've got a bigger organization than I do.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're doing great things in Houston, man. So.
I guess the questions that I ask myself, or I think the things that I wonder whether entrepreneurs haven't thought through. We talk about grind, right? We talk about, well, I worked a lot. I'm in at 5, I'm in at 6, I'm in the office at 9 at night. All of those things take us down a road of separation.
Yeah.
Whether it's separation from God because we're not making enough time for him, whether it's separation from family because we're not making enough time for them, whether it's separation from human interaction in general, right?
Yeah.
Like relational interaction, not just business interaction, because that's different. Like these aren't friends. These are people we do business with. Like they expect an exchange of something versus a friend is just someone I want to hang out with.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that in Genesis 1, at the very, very beginning, God creates this world, he creates this universe, these heavens and everything, and he puts a person in there. Yeah. And then he says, but hang on a second. It isn't good for him to be alone. Now, think about this theologically for a second. Adam wasn't alone.
Right.
God came down and hung out with him every day.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Like literally the creator of the universe came and hung out with him. And I am sure there was some kind of communication happening. That's a good point, Mike. Even when God wasn't physically there. Like we now talk about the Holy Spirit. We understand that God lives inside of us. His spirit lives inside of us. I don't believe for a second pre-fall that Adam couldn't communicate with God until 3 p.m. when he showed up in the garden. So Adam wasn't alone. But yet God said he was alone in the sense that there wasn't someone else like him, a human being, a created being, who he could relate to on his level to enjoy this life that God had created for him. And so he made someone, and he made Eve. Yeah. So I find it very interesting. And
that's a good one to reflect on.
Well, I wonder if the real genius of the enemy, so my belief is, business is the number one way that God wants to touch the world. I wrote a book about this. I believe that the organized religion we have today is plan B because kingdom entrepreneurs didn't do what they were supposed to do, which was use their business for kingdom impact. Yep. And so God had to create a different system, and it doesn't work and it's not working. And that's why we see the challenges we have. Yep. So with that context, I find it very interesting that the enemy's best approach is hustle harder, grind more,
Yep.
keep working, and all of those things are going to destroy everything about humanness that makes
Yeah.
us, which is relationship.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you deal with that? Or have
Yeah.
you even recognized that actually this road that I'm going to is taking me to
Yes.
isolation and away
Yeah.
from everything God created for me to enjoy as a
Yeah.
human being?
Yeah.
As far as how I interact with people, how I interact with him and everything else.
Yeah.
Am I taking it too far? Does that sound like it makes sense?
Oh, it makes so much sense. And you're an amazing person to speak to this because you've created a co-working space, right? So I'm sure part of your heart and your vision is creating that relationship and creating that intentionality and getting away from isolation.
Yeah.
It's been a huge struggle for me. Like I am, my family will make fun of me, right? Like you're such a hermit,
Yeah.
right? And I think that, yeah, I mean, I've been driven into isolation. I've been driven into isolation. I mean, some of my circumstances dictate that because I live on a ranch,
Yeah.
right? And so I can hang out on a ranch all day. I love being by myself. I'm like a massive introvert. So
Hmm.
I do like I replenish by just being by myself and just being with God. I do have, over the last 7 years, have really spent a lot more time with just God.
Yeah.
And so, for me, like that can look like an hour, hour and a half every morning, just spending time with the Lord in the word, prayer, reflection. And I find that very filling. My wife obviously is my best friend, so I have that relationship. So, and then my kids, right? And so but I don't have a lot of good friendships, right? Because
Right.
Zeemee's driven me to a place where a couple things. One, I my friends have become the people I work with, but the challenge is I work remote. So I don't actually see them in person very
Yeah.
often,
Yeah.
right? So Slack has become my, modality via which I make connection and then Zoom,
Yeah.
right? And so those become my friends, but I don't have that in-person connection, which I think you're saying like God desires us to have that and desires us to have that with other men, right? And I don't really have that today.
Yeah.
I have in the past, but it's like I've done a terrible job maintaining it because I'm so focused on Zeemee and my family.
Yeah.
I don't pour into that. And I don't know if some of that's dictated by seasons of life or what
Hmm.
it is. I completely agree with you. I think that isolation is terrible. It leads us down a dark path, right? Like there's been times where I drink a lot, right? Because, of isolation, right? Things like that. So, thankfully I don't find myself in that place right now, but I'm still struggling with getting, isolation and how do I overcome that? I just don't, oftentimes it's like, hey, do you want to go do this? I'm like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Like I just don't have time. And maybe that's me just not making time and I need to be a lot more intentional about it. But yeah, I mean, you're talking to the guy that's like absolutely terrible at this. So I do, so I recognize that it's something I need to work on. And I think that, it's a big thing. My buddy Henry Kasner talks about this a lot, right? Through Faith Driven Entrepreneur, like isolation, will kill you. And that's not a path you want to go down. So yeah, I need to do a lot better at that, Mike. So I appreciate you calling that out.
It's funny. I read something recently. It was a study that was done on life expectancy
Yeah.
and quality of life for, call them elderly, retiree age people,
Yes.
60s, 70s, 80s.
Yes. Yeah.
And they looked at, this group of people and they studied them over a meaningful amount of time. And they looked at, diet, exercise patterns,
Yes. All this.
family dynamics, all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and relationships,
Yeah.
friendships, like
Yeah.
quality and quantity.
Yeah.
And what was really mind blowing to me, because I'm kind of like you, it's an effort for me to have to stay in touch with people,
Yeah.
but it's an effort that I try and make more.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, things like the podcast really help because
Yeah.
most of the time I don't sit down with somebody for 45 minutes or an hour and
Right.
chat, because it's
This is
kind of
super
weird,
refreshing for me, right? Like we leave like my spirits just lifted, like, and
right?
we're on Zoom, right? Imagine if we were in person, like
Yeah.
it's magnified tenfold.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is what the study proved. It said that people who will live the longest and healthiest in their later years, it has nothing to do with their diet, their exercise, and all these other things you would think.
That's
It
great.
has
Yeah.
everything to do with the quality and
Yeah.
quantity of the friendships and relationships you
Yeah.
have. And, I sat down, I read it, and I thought, wow. Okay, so if I want to enjoy, the last few years of my life, I need to
Yeah.
start building
Right.
towards that now
Yeah.
and build a
Yeah.
circle of people that I enjoy hanging out with, that I enjoy, going getting ice cream with or whatever it is, because that's worth far more than me, going out running at 6 a.m. 3 times a week.
Yeah. Right.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And yet, that's
It's
what the
so
Bible
true.
said, right?
That's such a great point. And like, yeah, I've seen a couple of those studies and I just don't want to believe them, right? I'm just like, I can't believe that. Like, but I imagine like that's got to be the case. Anytime I see someone in person in town and I spend some time with them, like my spirit just feels so lifted, so refreshed. And yeah, I mean, it probably at the end of the day, it just boils down to my own selfishness, right? Because I'm very disciplined in my schedule, right? Like I get up, I spend time with God, I work out, I go to work, I do dinner with the family. Like I'm 3 hours unplugged in the morning. I don't check my phone. I'm 3 hours after I get done with work. I spend only my time with my family. Like,
right.
So I'm a very selfish person. I think I've grown into being very selfish. Like I don't want you to disrupt my workout, right? I don't want you to disrupt my quiet time with God. Right. And like, does some of that, even though discipline can be good there, like, does that end up leading you down a path of like,
right.
I'm so focused on me and my immediate like surroundings that I don't have time for other people. So I think that's just something I need to process through and figure out, like, am I just being, a selfish jerk? Right. So,
well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. It's this constant ebb and flow where there is no perfect one size fits all. And,
right.
Every action has a reaction. So now I try and do the right thing by protecting my morning, and shutting everything down. But then the reaction of that is if a friend's in need and they call me, they're not going to get through because I shut everything down.
Right. Exactly. I got them on, what is it? Like sometimes
do not disturb mode or whatever.
Do not disturb.
Yeah.
And only my family or people at work can get me through do not disturb. Right. I've already set the priorities of like who I'm willing to.
Yeah. It's so nuanced.
I'm so glad you brought that up, man. It's something I got to reflect on and spend some more time like diving into that one for sure.
Well, I'd come hang out, but Wyoming and Texas are a little ways apart. So I've made it.
We got to meet in person though, man. I got to meet you in person. You're such a cool dude. And I think too, like I probably live under like, oh, this is a season, right? And it will pass. And like, at some point there'll be an exit for Zeemee. I'll have a lot more time and I'll be able to, but if I don't build those habits now, right? Am I truly going to build them then?
Yeah.
Or is it just going to be like, I'll actually become more isolated?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because you'll have another great idea. And a little
or
bit
I'm just like, I don't need to go into town. Like I don't need, like I can just stay out here and I don't need to interact with people. Like I don't know. Like, so I want to build the healthy habits now. So I need to start looking at that.
Well, Adam, look, I appreciate you hanging out with me. I've enjoyed the conversation. I'm going to wrap up.
It's so fun to connect with you, man. And Troy, appreciate him doing everything for the podcast. So fun. You guys get to do this father-son. I love that.
Yeah, it's. I think Troy loves it some days.
Other days he hates it. Yeah,
maybe not every day, but no, it's fun having the kids around and being able to do stuff together. And it's been a blessing for me and my wife for sure. So
that's so cool, Mike.
Well, thanks for joining us and listening today. Here's 3 quick takeaways, just to summarize some of the things we talked about. Number 1, kingdom work starts with humility. As Adam said, he wanted people to think he was awesome, but he had to learn that taking his hands off and giving it back to God is when he really started to see success. Number 2, your identity isn't in the work that you're doing. Whether you're reaching millions of people, you're being faithful in the small stuff, God sees that obedience. And we talked about obedience and how powerful it is and how important it is in our walk, in our business, in all the things that we're doing, because it's not about how impressive we are. It's not about how impressive the business is. It's really about who we're building it for. And ultimately that's Jesus. And third and final, the antidote to competition is actually community. Surround yourselves with people who aren't measuring your worth by success. Find friends that will remind you who you are, even when the metrics aren't matching your expectations. So, hey, look, if you enjoyed the episode, could you just take 1 minute and maybe just like this thing, share it, drop a review? This is the best way that you can help us find other listeners that are looking for this kind of content so that they can find it, so they can be encouraged, and hopefully so that they can walk a little bit closer in their faith walk with Jesus as they're trying to figure out how to do business and entrepreneurship God's way. Till next time, thanks for listening.